Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 31 of Defining Duke Ultimate, a Defining Duke supplement. Cog, you got your Dukes up?
Got my Dukes up. I'm ready.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is a very particular one that I imagine will be a little bit touchy, so I want to confront that immediately. No housekeeping. Let's get right into it. This is a Halo gut check. It's been sort of a up and down roller coaster. We're not going to recount the whole ride, but more so the recent bumps in the road and really dive in on, is the red flag there? Should we be concerned? And if you don't want to listen to that, if you don't want to hear a critical conversation about Halo, I respect that. I understand that. We know it's touchy. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic. I know for a fact it's touchy as someone who's been critical of 343 and Halo Infinite. So if you don't want that, you can go. It's all right. We appreciate your support regardless, and we hope you do stay and listen. But what we really want to do is hone in on, of course, in the middle of this fantastic technical preview where me, Cog, and Chris sat down for an hour and a half and geeked out in a previous episode of DDU, is gut check not only ourselves with some of the recent happenings, but the audience. See where the audience stands on this. We know it's been a lot of Halo recently for obvious reason. It's the biggest game coming out this holiday for Xbox, and it's the one that we're most excited about and our audience is most excited about. And really, when you look at the rest of the exclusive slate, I don't think there's any concern outside of Halo Infinite that Xbox won't really land it with something like Forza Horizon 5 or Age of Empires 4. So I just wanted to set the lay of the land before we began, because I thought that was really important to understand where we're coming from. We're not going to be hating on it, right, Cog? We're not going to be destroying it, because we, in the middle of this, like I said, we got that great technical preview, which is really the buoy for this whole conversation that keeps us from going full negative.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say something.
The comic boys get mad at me. Let Maddie don't beat me again. Yes, I wanted to respect Maddie, get his bars off.
Go for it.
No. I agree, man. Like they're needed conversations. One of my motto is not telling you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And at the end of the day, it's constructive criticism is good. And we have to analyze everything that's going on with this game. Like you said, wonderfully, we had Chris Raygun on. We had an amazing Defining Duke Ultimate. We were raving about this game. So from a core multiplayer standpoint, we love it, right? Mm-hmm. We felt strongly about it going in. But obviously, as we're going to get into, there are a ton of things that have happened and transpired since then. So we want to analyze it. We want to break it down, right?
Exactly. So without any further delay, let's get it started. We're going to start with more recent stuff, and of course, we'll get into familiar territory like Forge, co-op. We've talked about this on the main Defining Duke show, but I feel like leaving it out here would sort of do this episode a disservice. But we want to start off with some recent unveilings, such as Halo Infinite's progression. So typically, you have career progression in Halo, multiplayer, you level up, all that good stuff. And now we've learned that the Battle Pass progression is tied to challenges and not per match, XP. So one of the Halo community managers tweeted out, playing and winning matches will be challenges, which will help players progress through the Battle Pass, even though this means no per match XP at launch. Keyword there. You're still always progressing through challenges and therefore the Battle Pass. When asked about running out of challenges, he clarified, it's extremely difficult to run out of daily challenges. I won't say it's impossible because there's some grinders out there, but I'd be impressed. Jerry Hook, head of design at 343, later tweeted, daily challenges for playing matches is the plan for launch, but we're always looking at ways to expand progression across the board. We'll be able to share more about the outcomes from key tech preview feedback, including this in an upcoming blog on Waypoint. Using challenges, our goal is that you'll always be earning progress in your Battle Pass through playing and winning matches. This will allow you to jump off into a game of Halo and make progress on your goals. All right, so keywords are at launch, But what do you feel? I think you're more of a multiplayer guy than I, so I want to check you first. How do you feel about battle pass challenges being the main progression around here? And they're saying there's going to be a lot of them, and that
Right.
it's going to be pretty tough to finish them all for just
Right.
daily, let alone weekly, monthly. So where do you lie on pure challenge progression?
Honestly, Maddie, this was the news I really hated.
Okay.
I
Okay.
really didn't like it.
Okay.
And as a person who plays Destiny, which is somewhat similar on some levels, but one thing's about bounties, and like for example, Destiny will have get 15 kills pulse rifle, do this with a you know shotgun or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, the thing I don't like about it is that it forces a specific play style that sometimes is not conducive to your personal fun. Right. So if
Mm-hmm.
I just want to have fun with the boys, I got a weapon that I'm like, let's bring it back to Halo. If I just want to, rock with the needle, I got my battle rifle. I just, I'm kind of in that pocket where I want to just do that thing and I like that thing. This kind of gameplay mechanic really forces a play style that some people are not going to like. And then here's the thing,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have that as optional. See, that's what Destiny does well. Bounties are still optional, right? You get additional XP, right? But when I just say, you know what, I'm going to jump into Crucible and I'm just going to bust some heads, I could still level up. I
Mm-hmm.
could still get XP. And the key point you said beautifully, but reading John's the community manager from 343's thing is he says it says even though the per XP match is not going to be there at launch, pause, right? You pause beautifully there, right? That right there
Mm.
says a lot. So they recognize that this is something they want to add, but it's not going to be there in time. That's how I internalize it. And again, as we discussed with further things, this seems to be consistent with
Yes.
what's going on. So I'm going to give it to you. That's where my initial thing is. I don't like it. It forces specific play styles. And,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just want to play the way you want to play. That's all.
Yeah. And obviously I want to lay my eyes more on what these challenges will be. I found it to be a particular red flag because what I envisioned it as is I think it's going to challenge a play style that I don't think Halo players will gravitate to. Now, maybe those who just randomly pick up the game will, but this is stuff like get 5 shotgun kills. It's like, well, maybe I don't want this specific shotgun, by the way. Maybe you don't want to use that. Maybe it's not a good weapon. You're going to start to see people playing differently and using things that maybe they're not comfortable with, in turn, throwing matches for their battle pass progression. Sniper kill someone. I'm not good with the sniper. I'll be the first to tell you. I love the skewer in Halo Infinite. That was one of the best weapons I think I've ever felt in FPS. Right off the bat, I was like, yeah, this is it. But dude, if we're in like a competitive match, I'm not picking that thing up. You kidding me? I'm throwing the map. But if my battle pass is telling me to pick it up, you might think twice about it. And that may not sound like a big deal to people. Obviously, I think variety is the spice of a lot of these games. But to me personally, I feel like this could throw the pacing of a match off, because players aren't just playing, right? It's not just about the core gameplay. It's like, what can I do to push that battle pass? And that's where just natural progression with XP, like, by the way, we need to emphasize, they are looking into.
Yes, yes, yes.
Clearly they know this is something that either they need or they want. But the benefit of that is just you play the game, and it Chris Raygun put it perfectly. The progression system does not serve as a crutch for not engaging gameplay. I don't want to take credit for that, but that's what
Mhm.
he said, and I thought that was so perfectly put.
Oh, yes,
Is
beautiful.
is you're not leaning into the challenges to be the hook. It's like, what's the hook of Halo Infinite now that we're just playing the game and we're progressing as per usual? So is that a major red flag in the terms of how it'll play out? We don't really know until we get our hands on it. But what I think this could easily carry into is the very fair worry of monetization, right? It's a free to play game. We're looking at battle pass only progression. I could totally see skip tokens coming in, right? I could totally see them coming in, paid for skip tokens. I don't know a battle pass system that doesn't have one. And I'm not discrediting all the battle passes that do have them. But when your whole progression is tied to it, I don't know, man. It's a little
Yeah,
strange, especially at launch. And my last point is, how do you not have a perfectly ironed out progression system for multiplayer?
right.
That's what I don't get. A battle pass to me has always been additive. You have a main line of progression that has been established at the core of the game, and the battle pass is laid on top as like your cosmetic goodies, all that stuff that, for I think for more hardcore players that you can buy into the paid version of the battle pass, and it's like nice, like now we're really getting into goods every level.
Right.
To me, I don't understand how they're thinking about adding XP after the fact. It seems almost indecisive. Not that the game's going to be bad because of it, but at the heart of multiplayer is, of course, engaging gameplay, but progression. And I don't know how they're like, oh, we're adding this later, or it's not here at launch. It's like, well, why? Why are you considering XP? Why wasn't that there in the first place? What told you to not do that? And that's what brought me to monetization. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
6 years later. Oh, okay. Makes a little sense now. Sorry,
Yeah.
I went on a little bit there,
Yeah,
but
you're on fire because it's like, again, to me, I'm a person that when I get bad news, I don't try to get fly off the handle and just get emotional. I try to understand the reasoning and the logic behind said move, right?
right.
So for me, it's like, okay, like you said, why are we going away from the traditional XP system at its core? Why are we not rewarding engagement? Because one thing I love about multiplayer games is that, you know, if let's say, for example, I just love the needler, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like to me, I should be rewarded, whether it be skins or anything, so that when I look at another player, I know, yo, he's dedicated to that thing. It just creates that engagement and that player investment, and you want to reward that, right? So to me, when I hear this, that screams to me, one,
Mm-hmm.
free to play on a business model level. They are seriously encroaching with the monetization aspect into this game because
Yeah.
this is the first free to play Halo. Then the second thing, like you said, is just like, man, like I just don't understand why it's not ready. When you say at launch, you mean it's coming later. So what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it? And again, I'm gonna stay on this theme because I've been getting pushback from my own community. They like, yo, it needs to come out, and we're gonna get into more stuff. But these are things
Yeah.
when you gotta look at the signs, right? Look at the
I
signs.
agree. There's
When
sorry, keep going.
yeah, no, go.
I was
I know
gonna
where you
say
go.
there's just a very different conversation for Halo Infinite than any other game.
Why is that?
I
Right?
don't.
Why we sit here and we say for every other game, man, we go, yo, delay's a good thing. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Yo, take your time, take your time. We use the
Mm-hmm.
Miyamoto quote, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
like, we oh, but for it must come out. We got to get it. We gonna get into. I got some stuff for you
Yeah, I was
later.
gonna say once we tackle the Halo Infinite campaign situation, I think that's where a lot of that will come to light because to me that's the more worrying part. Because with this could easily become a decent thing, right? It's like, all right, challenges work fine. It's not really interrupting my type of play. I think it's good. I think this can be easily washed away. I think the encroaching monetization can be a concern. And I do also want to toss out there that time gating can be a concern,
Yes, good
right?
point.
What if there are some challenges that are easy to get? You win a match, play a match, get a kill, the simple ones. And then there's ones like get 40 kills with your sniper rifle. It's like, I ain't getting that, bro.
I'm
And
saying, yeah,
so
I'm
and
not a
so
sniper.
eventually you hit a wall and you're like, well, I'm not progressing for today. Sign in tomorrow. And I'm like, that's what I don't like. Sometimes people just want to play. Not that you stop playing because you run out of challenges. Once again, this goes back to what I think Chris so elegantly put on Twitter, which
Right,
was that, if it's engaging gameplay, you'll keep playing. But
right.
that carrot at the end of the stick works for a lot of people, myself included. It always has. Like, I'm an RPG player. Of course,
Hmm.
progression is my middle name, right?
Right.
So I think that's also just worth throwing out there is
No,
there's a
absolutely.
lot of raw potential with this where it could go south very fast or it could just be fine. And it's like, all right, it worked.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the time gaining is concerning because again, like you said, like there are going to be things that you're not going to want to do or are not good at, right?
Mhm.
And I just think about just as a PvP guy, right?
Right.
The things that bother me is like, you know, everyone camping at the spawn for the for the rocket launcher.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like think about like your whole mindset now changes. You know what I'm saying? Now again, not saying every challenge is going to be that, right? There's going to be challenges that may just say play a couple of matches for the day or whatever, whatever. But let's just say even on that level, let's just say that we're overblowing it.
Mhm.
And it's just simple, But even at a core level, let's say it's 3 to 5 challenges a day, right? You play what, so I say one is win 3 matches, one is something simple with the pistol, default stuff, and the third one is, I don't know, capture for some other arbitrary thing, right?
Right.
But let's say they're not that bad and you do it. For the day now, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's still no substantial way to continue to increase XP by just playing, because if you do their checklist, now you're stuck in this. It's you're not making any headway towards the battle pass. And at the end of the day, the battle pass to me is trumping the decision, because it's like, why? On one hand, they've done a great job by allowing you to pick the track and not have FOMO if you
Mm-hmm.
miss out. I love that.
Yeah,
I got to
that's
give them
great.
their flowers there.
Absolutely.
That, like I said, I had multiplayer designer on. Shout out to Patrick Grant. Salute to your promotion, by the way. He's got to see. He's now senior multiplayer.
Ooh.
Salute. Hopefully, you talked to them about this XP. But at the end of the day, I understand that. But to me, it still feels that you don't want us to get all the way at the end of this thing as quick as we want, because then their engagement to continue to play goes down. And I think that's what might be going here.
Right. Perfectly put. And so let's shift the conversation from multiplayer, which is a little bit more up in the air, to the single player. So we last saw the campaign in August of 2020. We know how that all went. Here we are 1 year later. We've seen a lot of CG trailers, and even experts are like, I'm not really sure where this story is going to go. We're still sort of in the dark, which is, I think, a good thing. A lot of people always talk about, I want to be surprised. Here's our chance, I think, which I appreciate. But we do want to see those changes that were made on a visual level in action in the campaign. Halo is one of the few first-person shooters where campaign still truly matters and can really determine the reputation of a game. You look at something like Halo 5, which had decent multiplayer, but its campaign was so bad that the game fell off quickly. A lot of people were not crazy about Halo 5. And once again, it's really tested to that single player component. So where was the campaign? We received an update from Joe Staten at Gamescom telling us that the campaign and multiplayer will launch together in one package on December 8th. So we were wondering, hey, when are we going to see that campaign? See all the new changes, bells and whistles that have come to the game since we last saw it, and make sure that it is the polished product that we're looking for. According to Staten's closer on the Halo Infinite blog, the radio silence is due to the development team being in, quote, shutdown mode, end quote, effectively blocking out all the outside noise to focus on critical bugs fixes and ensuring the game is optimized across a range of PCs and console hardware. This comes from an article on PCGamer.com. Quote, if you'll forgive a bit of aviation geekery, the entirety of the team is essentially in a sterile cockpit, which is to say, we're at a critical phase in the flight that is Halo Infinite, so it's extremely important to avoid distractions and stay focused on mission-critical tasks only. For campaign, that means putting maximum effort into ensuring the wide-open, adventure-filled experience you'll all get to play on December 8th is as great as it possibly can be. And gameplay demos and trailers not only take away a huge amount of effort to do well, they also take cycles away from bugs and other shutdown tasks, end quote. He does state that he's been playing through the campaign and says it is super fun to play, unsurprisingly. But that's really the gist of what's going on with the campaign. Right, he's saying that it takes maximum effort. They're in shutdown mode. They're getting rid of all these bugs, glitches, and that right now we can't put this campaign showcase out. Now, I don't know if they forgot.
Right.
It's coming out in December.
Yeah. It's coming out.
I don't know. I obviously, the polishing phase is towards the end of development, so they're not doing something fishy here. But I gotta say, Cog,
let's go.
We're getting close.
Let's go.
To me, this is the biggest red flag of them all, that we have not seen it since, and that they showed us a very, I've said this since my first video on Halo Infinite's multiplayer. I loved what I played.
Yes.
It was and I said it at the start actually of DDU too, but it was a very specific slice of the game, a number of maps and bots.
Yes.
And I think, they did it because they needed to gauge feedback, but they did it because they needed a good PR win, because without that test, this conversation is different.
Good point.
It is much more negative. It is much more like, this is bad. Like, this is bad news after bad news. Like, imagine we never had the technical test. Of course, we're talking in what ifs, but I'm just saying, to transport ourselves for a sec, pardon me. We are in a time where we didn't get the technical preview. We get the release date. We see, multiplayer campaign launching together. And then Joe Staten goes, well, we're still polishing. We're in a critical phase right now. Does that not sound the alarms? So take this very small vertical slice we experience, and if you factor that out or factor it in, whichever way you want, I still think this is a critical statement that shows that this game is going to squeak out. And to your point, I want to steal all your thunder.
Oh, go for it.
What is with the pressure of no delays for this game?
Yes.
Not that I want the delay, because I do want it as soon as possible, but if they're looking at it going, we're in a critical phase right now, and they can't even show us the game because it takes time, but they got time for the CG trailers. What?
Yeah. Again, as a Destiny fan, the Witch Queen reveal was also this week. Okay. And what I thought was extremely interesting was that for the first time, in a long time, Bungie's having their anniversary, their 30th, right? So what has happened is Bungie has now, during their stream, they're talking about their new content, but they are mentioning themselves as a studio. And this is rare right here, what I'm about to tell you. Even when they mention themselves in their historic history, they always separate themselves from Halo on some level. You don't see Master Chief stuff. You don't see that. Thought it was quite interesting. I'm seeing Xbox controllers. They're showing vidocs of them playing, 360 Halo 2, Halo 1, Master Chief. They're playing the classic music. I'm like, whoa, I'm getting my feels here, Bungie. Like, okay, you acknowledging. And I looked at the date, and I said it live on stream. The date, I believe, was like December, like the first week of December. And I'm like, interesting. And I said on stream, I'm calling it right now. Bungie and Halo are going to do some type of cross-promotional thing, because the 20th anniversary of Halo, right? And then you have now December, which is this. Then I said, I have a funny feeling Halo's coming out in December. It's the perfect marketing thing, right? Then in Destiny, right now, you can see gear that they have themed. It has like a needler on the side. So I'm hearing I've heard these rumors for a long time. And as a Destiny fan, you always go, leave me alone. Don't mess with my heart. Those are my two favorite games. Don't do it. Don't you try to say that I'm going to get the pistol in Destiny and vice versa. There is something cooking. We already know with Phil and Pete Parsons' relationship, which is one of the heads of Bungie. Those guys are great. We know that, whatever. But let me get back on focus with this. So I'm saying all of that to say this is that, to me, this game screams it is coming out hell or high water. It is coming out at that time, because they don't want to miss this marketing blitz. Then we saw the console, the new Halo Elite controller, right? Glorious stuff. I mean, I was pre-ordered right then, right? But again, all this screams to me, Maddie, it's coming out, right? And the sad part is I don't want this at the expense of the quality of this game. And this is example 2, which you just showing. Shout out to Staten. We love him. He's playing it. We're in this flight stage. We got to land the plane and stuff like that. All that tells me is that, yes, you're transparent in that resources are going to have to be taken away to show footage of this campaign. But at the same time, if you were ahead of the game, or you were truly on schedule, right, and had that breathing room, then we should be able to see it. And you made a fantastic point. Last point. If we did not see multiplayer, which literally brought the positivity back into the room and Halo back into a good light. Prior to that, it was Craig, it was no ray tracing, it was pop up in the sky, it was all this stuff, and we didn't really know what was going on with it, what type. Still to this level, they say, it's what does he say? It's an open world.
Open adventure. Here, I'll get the
adventure.
Quote.
And even that, and shout out to Jez, who we had on Defining Duke, I don't like, as Rand said it as well, like, I don't like when someone says, because of this style of game, those games are really not finished. We can add and go on as we.
Oh, I almost forgot about that. Wow. Yeah.
Remember that?
That was a big one.
Look at the signs. Again, you're not fully finished. You're just trying to land this plane. Hell or high water is to end.
Mm-hmm.
I just worry, man. I just worry. I just hope. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm overblowing it. I'm not doing doom and gloom. I'm not doing that. I
Yeah.
love this game. I want it to be great. I want 343 to do their thing. But there are a lot of tea leaves there that have me very concerned.
Yeah. To make sure everyone has the exact quote, wide open adventure filled experience.
Mm.
So hub areas is my guess.
Yeah.
Multiple
Yeah.
hubs. And
Yeah.
that'll be exciting.
Yeah. I mean,
But
not to cut you.
no, please.
I think he did say live service or something to that effect prior to that quote. There was
Yeah.
another quote when they were speaking to him when the news came out about campaign not being there and he was sitting down with the other gentleman, I forget his name. There was a terminology he used there. I remember me and Rand focused on that. I was like, what does that mean? He was like, yeah, because these games are really never finished. It's always that those are the terms he used. He was like, there's always stuff you add on and stuff like that as to the reasoning why a campaign and why would be coming in this season and why Forge would be coming in that season. If you could find that quote, I'll try to find it.
Hold on, I think I got it right here.
Yeah, that's
I
the
think
one.
I got
man.
it right here. Hold on.
Yeah, big
All
stuff
right.
there.
So he said, this is during the video. Yeah, I mean, we talked about delaying, Staten said, but where we landed was, Halo Infinite is a live game. So isn't ever really done. You know what I mean? It's going to progress and evolve from season to season. We talk about launch from the beginning of that journey, but to have a beginning, you need to pick a moment and actually begin. So ultimately, we decided we've been working on this game for a really long time. Our fans have been waiting for this game for a really long time with the solo campaign in our first season of free-to-play multiplayer in really good shape for holiday. That's strange, given that he said that they're still bug stomping to show the campaign. We didn't want to delay anymore. Let's get started, and we'll continue to evolve from there, season to season.
What do you think? I'll give it back to you, man. What you thinking, man?
I got some Master Chief Collection energy from that, man. I really do. Not that it's going to be busted, by the way.
Doom and gloom. No, just joking.
Not that it's going to be that busted, but I'm saying I got some energy from that. Like, when you look at MCC now in the conversation, you would not think it launched in the broken, incomplete, catastrophic state it did in 2014. Flagship title there. The start of the real, that you want to talk doom and gloom, like that's when it really began. Like, man, you guys took the originals and like this is what you did. But now you look at it's on Steam. They've added in other games for free. Great stuff. But it brings us back to the age-old conversation of live service titles. We don't want to wait till it's ready. Like we want it good at launch. And that's why I tip my cap to the Division 2. No, it's totally off topic, but I remember when that game came out, that was in really good shape. I didn't stick with it. I don't stick with really any service games, to be fair. But that was in really good shape at launch where it was like, this I like. Like there wasn't the bugs, the glitches. Like it was just good mission design. Everything was functional. It was really refreshing. And once people got that, it was like this exhale in the room. Like, all right, we got it. And then the conversation died again and went back to these games evolve. They're live season to season. I don't like that personally. I understand the allure of it. I love watching something build up. And there is positives to having the game be able to build up over time where I talk about playing Star Wars The Old Republic. This game's been around for a decade. I've really found my stride with the game in the last 3 years, like on and off. And now in this last 2-month stretch, I've been playing it most days. So I get it, right? That's the allure of it, is that you can hop in new and enjoy all of those perks. And that brings the game to a new level because then they go, yo, I tried this. You got to try it now.
Exactly.
Halo Infinite will be a beneficiary of that, no doubt in my mind. But for those who are here day one, it does not mean you need to accept something undercooked. And I don't like the idea of this was in response to Forge and Co-op saying, well, it's an evolving game. It's a live game. We got to start somewhere. I don't know if you got to do that with Halo. I think your live formula is multiplayer. Yeah. But when we talk campaign, no, it's not. If Infinite's a platform, speak like that, right? So if you're going to launch another Halo Infinite 2, we'll just call it as placeholder. If you're going to launch that on the Infinite platform, okay, that's cool because that is like an evolving story. But these PR marketing terms that maybe they grab people more than they would grab someone like me. But I just think that there is cause for discussion. If you don't want to get concerned, fine. But discussion on how lackadaisical it is coming across. They are not as a studio lackadaisical, but how it is coming across to the consumer. They're like, oh, we'll get it in next season and next
Yeah.
season. I just find it irking that there are core features missing that they're
Yeah.
kind of going, well, we got to start somewhere. It's like, you start when they're in the
You
game.
start when it's done.
Yeah. And then you add on top of that. You don't give me the features in a year and go like, see, we've added, we've continued to build Halo. It's like, no. Sorry, but go on. I've rambled a bit.
One other point that just crossed my mind too was that you know, this goes to an overarching thing that when you've talked about, you know, with Game Pass, right? And because we know this is in Game Pass, you know, this does. Let me throw it back. Because it's in Game Pass, does the mindset change from development to say, you know, look, they're gonna get it. We can always add this thing in. It's not free, but it's, you know, it's accessible to a huge amount of people, and that, you know, excuses behavior because I just want the standard to be held, and this is a flagship title, man. Like this is we said it prior, like this is the essence of why a lot of people even fell in love with your brand. Let's be real. Halo is that important. It's one of the iconic pillar franchises. And for co-op to not be a part of it, right? It's still a huge deal. So my question to you, that Game Pass effect, what do you feel? Does it may have influence, may not? Where you sit on that?
I'm wondering, to answer that, I want to shift to like what I think Microsoft internally views their IP and levels of importance.
Yeah.
I think they know Halo is important, but I also think they know, as it stands right now, 343 has damaged Halo to the point where it is not the strong brand that it was with Bungie.
Okay.
And so I think they internally think something like Elder Scrolls 6 is probably their flagship, but there's half a decade till we maybe even get there. And so they need to get this one right. So when you look at Game Pass, I do think there is some change in the approach. And I think it's really hard to deny because you got someone like Matt Booty who comes out, head of Xbox Game Studios, and says, we're not changing how we make games for Game Pass. But then you've got the CEO of Avalanche talking about Contraband, and Avalanche, they make decent games, but we're talking Just Cause, Rage 2, like these games that come and go, right? They don't have staying power. And this man with his chest out goes, you know, the player base is there. It'll come. And I'm just like, Avalanche is saying that? Avalanche. I mean that with no disrespect, but come on. We got to call it as it is. And when I look at something like that, and you think about a game like Contraband, which is going to be, as I've reported, Jez Corden has reported, this sort of Sea of Thieves GTA hybrid title. When you look at something like that, it's like, that's a Game Pass game, man. That's a service game. And not all of them are there, right? We got something like The Ascent.
Right.
But to your question, I do think this shifts the approach. And how couldn't it is really my response. How couldn't it? It has changed how I thought about making my game. Because I know that if I can get it in Game Pass, oh my God, there's like 20 million people who can see it, let alone how many people may play it. The prospect of potential players there, if your game hits and people start talking about it, there is so much to gain. Less for someone like me who's working on an RPG, more for someone who's making a service game. And that's undeniable, is my point. But with my problem, and there's no issue with that. The developer knows their advantage, and that's something Xbox brings to gaming that makes their platform attractive. So there's no problems there in my book. It's when they say that they're not thinking about it. It's like, yes, you are. How could you not? It is, you market Game Pass as a platform more than telling people to go buy an Xbox. How could you try to tell me that this does not matter? Because it does. It's literally the future of your ecosystem and why people have cared about Xbox again. So it really bothers me when they kind of lie, in my opinion, because Xbox has this clear love for evolving. Like when Ascent got its big patch, which ironically broke the game more, Phil was like, yeah, I'm really happy to see the team continue to evolve this game and support it with patches. And I just feel like Xbox loves the step-by-step nature. Getting the game there, right? They love that stuff. Like,
the journey.
Yeah, exactly. They love the journey. Like, hey, you fought and you're here now, man. They really do.
Stupid. That
Anyway,
was funny. I'm sorry.
that's enough. That's enough for me.
I got you. I got no.
I'll
I
pass it
it,
back to you.
no, bro. Valid criticism. I don't think you're out of pocket. I think that these are things worth monitoring. You know, again, we having a conversation. We got to be honest with things we like and things we don't like. So at the end of the day, this is something that we do have to monitor moving forward. And Halo is, a big example of that. This is
Mhm.
something that's going to be launching in that platform.
Yeah, exactly. And really, my problem lies a little bit more with fans who would tweet at me. I don't mind if people disagree with me. I need to make that very clear because I know I've been very loud this episode. But my point has always been you can disagree with me all day long. There is no problem with that because I know I got weird takes. I know I got hot takes. We all do it. I live by my opinions, man. Like, I get it.
That's right.
So I don't mind if anyone disagrees with me. But what I don't like
Talk
is
to me.
when people tell me it is not a big deal that we're talking about the progression, whatever. But when they're
Mm,
talking about campaign, bugs, glitches, not ready yet, or a couple months out, I know this conversation can shift quickly. But all
Oh,
I'm
so
saying is right now, as it stands, when people go, it's launching in Game Pass, who cares? Like, these are things I consistently hear on a day-to-day basis. Do not let the value of a good service, a well-functioning, excellent service, lower your bar for what a quality game is. The
mm,
fact that I got pushback because I was like, yo, Xbox should not be doing day and date Dark Alliance games. Get something that works. It doesn't have to be an amazing game, right? They're not responsible for games good or bad, but they're responsible for launching something day and date in that service that's broken. They 100% have to be able to test it and know, all right, it plays. May not be the best. It plays,
right.
right? Because everyone's got different tastes. So I like that they're casting internet wide, but it cannot lower the standard of quality that you expect from a game. That is so damaging. It really is. People worry about putting stuff in boxes and worrying how it's going to make games worse. That's how you do it by going, shut up, Matt. This red flag, you're fear mongering. What?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I'm fear mongering.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's ridiculous. And again, I've never seen this before. This goes to show me the power of Halo, right? Because I've never seen this before, where it's a civil war going on in the community right now. It
Yeah.
legit is, and there are people who really stand on this square. Where like, yo, we want this game now. It's not a big deal. You guys are fear mongering, and
Mhm.
and my thing is this. And I challenge anyone on launch day. I'm not wishing anything bad on this game. Trust me. I love 343. I want them to succeed, right?
Mhm.
However, do not let me find issues on, I'm not going to say a Master Chief Collection, but if there are serious problems at launch, like there's going to, y'all gonna hear my mouth
Mhm.
because I said, what's the difference between if they're saying delay for campaign 3 months, let's say hypothetically for just 6 months or whatever the next season falls in conjunction with it, right? What's the big deal, right? Because
Right.
at the end of the day, you still got Forza there. It's still just a couple months. Let's afford these beautiful people the time they need for development. That to me should trump everything. You should want the most complete, polished product going. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I don't understand this pushback. I must have it now. I must have it now. Okay, if you get it now, you better be careful what you wish for if it's not it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's all I'm saying. That's where I'm at with it. But I'm with you on the attacking people for being concerned and critical. And you can disagree with me. I listen. I welcome it. That's one thing. As long as you're
Yeah.
respectful. As long as you're respectful. But,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
I love when my thoughts are challenged. Is why
Mm,
with not to self plug here, but just
yeah.
with Ham Radio, I want to do Ham
Nice.
Radio live because I'm sure they're like with co-hosts, there's just that natural like back and forth. We'll disagree with each other. We already have before, but like to get someone to call in and challenge the way you think in live in real time, it's what gets us better at our job because you consider as many angles as possible before putting your take out there, and I think it makes it all the more respectable.
Yeah.
So yeah, we welcome those who disagree with us. I know we sound a little protective this episode. It's because with Halo, it's hard not to be. I try to speak very matter of factly, but I also understand that for a lot of people, they don't want to hear negativity about Halo, and
Right.
that this is an episode that people could look at. You bookmark this moment, right? Because just in case people could look at this and go, when it comes out and it's good, if it's good, Look at these bozos, right?
Yeah, see?
Yeah, because here's the thing,
We
right? If
knew.
if I was sitting here doing what I think a lot of people are doing, which is gassing up Halo big
Mhm.
time. Like when they played the technical preview, going like, this game, top to bottom, will be amazing. I know it now. Where I would rather you challenge me now and be like, what the fuck's good with you?
Mhm.
Instead of calling me a bootlicker the whole way through. And then when the game comes out and it's busted, you're like, yo, Matt. I would have
Yeah.
rather been there doing what I do, which is challenging, being critical. Just like Cog here.
Yeah.
You know, of course, not unjustifiably so, not just like that's my prerogative for every game, but where the situation arises, even if it's something like Halo, which we know means a lot to our show and that we maybe would perform better if we were hyping it up. Um, I still think that that viewer challenge is important, but
Yes.
you know, we got to stay true to ourselves at the same time, right? And we
Absolutely.
were both on the same wavelength here.
Yeah, there's a word for it. It's called Maddie is balanced.
Ah,
That's what it is.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we got a couple more. We really cycled into them a little bit, but just to touch on them in a more official capacity, Forge and co-op. So, like I said, we wanted to front load everything with things we've talked about or have not talked about. Now we want to talk about things that we've discussed already, but we can circle back to with some of this information in tow. So we now have the release date. It's December 8th. We've been told that co-op will be added in the second season, which will be 3 months from launch. So we're looking at March for co-op Halo. And then the third season for Halo Infinite will arrive with Forge. And that'll be 6 months from launch. So we're looking at June-ish for Forge. No delays, by the way. If anything gets funky, those can all get bumped back.
Right.
But this comes into the talking point of features missing. How important to you is co-op and Forge?
Yeah, ranking co-op number one for sure. I've never played Halo campaign not in co-op.
Mhm.
Halo campaign in co-op is extremely personal to me. It's grab the homies up,
Mm.
crank the difficulty up,
Yep.
legendary, whatever, the challenge, the fun. And it literally, the reason why it's so important to me is because, the reason why I fell in love with the Xbox ecosystem was because of Halo. And,
Right.
the original Combat Evolved changed my life transformatively because, it taught me how to be a fake network engineer in my house and could do LAN cables at a LAN party.
Mhm.
But where Halo 2 then evolved, and it's like, okay, now we're doing Xbox Live and
Right.
now we're playing it. So to have those campaign moments, with your friends is something really important. So this hurt. This hurt very hard. I'm not gonna lie. I try to be, even though something affects me, I always try to look at the bigger picture and stuff like that. But I look at Halo campaign as a core pillar to what Halo offers that they've always offered from the very beginning of every single iteration. So
Yep.
this one cut deep. Forge is a little different. I'm not as much a Forge guy. I understand the importance of it. I'm a
Mhm.
person, I just want to get in there, shoot, give me the levels, give me the big team. That's fine. Right. As far as like I'm not a creator in that level, but I do empathize with the importance of it because that adds legs to a mode. You're giving people this creative freedom. And then from my understanding, amazing modes are birthed out of that,
Yeah.
right? So this is something that you can really have legs to your game even further. So it's just these additive things that to me represent the personality of Halo that are not going to be there. And I know people will say, yo, but the statistics say this, that, that. And I'm a push back on one.
Mm.
I see a lot, well, look at Halo 5's, achievement. A lot of people, this low percentage of people finish the game and campaign. But there's two things you got to realize here. One, Halo 5's campaign were not good.
Mhm.
That's number one. Number two, I actually sat down with Rand and a couple other friends and we looked at the achievement. I went through them. That achievement was only tied to a specific higher difficulty, not even the base difficulty, which in my opinion represents the more majority of
Yes.
players.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, you can't look at those statistics as a one-to-one. That's the reason no one's playing it. That's why are you think? And the last point, and I'll pass to you, is that
Mhm.
I just get frustrated with gamers' lack of empathy towards other gamers who are disappointed. Not that they're raging, not that we're not going to play Halo, not that we're not going to buy Halo, we're not boycotting 343, but this lack of empathy to just say, yo, it's a bit disappointing that these core features are not ready at launch.
I agree with that entirely. There's something with understandable upsetment in the industry that I found very weird. I remember when Cyberpunk got delayed and a lot of people were frustrated. Funny enough, now we would have asked for another delay, but a lot of people were frustrated because they kept pushing it back. And I remember making a video saying, if you are frustrated, that is okay. Because a lot of people were like, you talked about the Miyamoto quote, it can be forever bad. Don't worry. It's this delay is good news. And I just can't help but understand where you're coming from, where like when someone's frustrated, like, oh, I get why it's delayed, but it sucks. People are like, stop. And they bring up the Miyamoto quote. They bring up why it should be delayed. It's like people can what's happened with discourse online, not to get philosophical, is that people have lost the idea that two things can be true at once. You can be upset and you can understand why the thing is happening. Like these two things can occur at the same time. And so I think that would apply here. I understand why these things are delayed because maybe we should have said this at the start, but I think that in a way, given the expectation for Halo, it should deliver above the rest. Is that I should credit a patron comment for this because it's where I saw it. I apologize. I don't have the name. Mm-hmm. There could be a degree of feature creep for Halo, right? With all that it is expected to launch with how expensive and complicated game development continues to get. One thing that Sean Layden was entirely correct on the article we talked about with Game Pass and service games and the increasing cost of development. It's just that. Development prices are going up. So stuff like expecting co-op, a full campaign, a suite of multiplayer modes, Forge, some of this may end up being additive. So to my feelings on it, something like Forge, I can understand that being additive. Something like co-op, I get the challenge, right? This is a much more open area. It's not these linear cut levels like we've seen in Halo before. So it's like, okay, they're bigger. How big are they? We don't know. Once again, this is where perspective is key, where if we saw the campaign, maybe my whole spiel is different right now. But as it stands, I can only go off of what I saw, which was pretty open areas. Not impossible to do in campaign, but that it's added a challenge where two players have to render out everything at the same time. And that changes how the game runs. And that can be complicated. So I understand how and why I got delayed. But as I said, you can still be upset about it. And that's where I lie on it, is I found it really upsetting, more so like you, co-op. I think Forge is the heartbeat of custom games where, to me, that I thought that mattered more. Like you want that. I feel like co-op, you could almost slice out and be like, all right, you'll get this later. But Forge is like, hey, we can grow our game with this, right? People can go online, make videos, streams. Players are going to make modes for us. Like, let's get that ball rolling because we're going to be working on all of this crazy stuff. Sorry, I completely slapped the mic there. We're going to be working on all this crazy stuff, though, like bugs, glitches, because obviously it's not going to, I know for a fact, this isn't going to launch perfectly, right? Like, it's not going to come out and go, oh, it's everything. I hope it does, but I don't expect it. Where if other players can get, making new modes started, there you go. Like, suddenly you're killing two birds with one stone. I think Forge was more important to them. So credit to them for doing co-op first. Maybe it's just easier, more along. But it's always a big but here. Mm-hmm. Forge monetization is a reasonable worry. It's being rolled in with seasonal content. You got to wonder if there will be battle pass progression, like items you can unlock in the Forge tied to that mode. Once again, these are things that you just got to toss out there because I think when we, at the start of this, aired out the idea of encroaching monetization with skip tokens, what's to stop them from carrying that into something important like Forge, which will be the heartbeat of custom games? Yeah. And so I just, I understand how it's happening, why it's happening, but I find it ultimately disappointing. And a lot of people called me hyperbolic for it, or a lot of people more than usual, I should say, called me hyperbolic for my response to it. I was like, this is bad. I was like, this is really bad news. And they're like, it's not a big deal. Like you were saying, the lack of empathy, it's not a big deal. I don't really play. I think for most Halo players, it doesn't matter. I'm like, what the You're going to tell me like you like this just because like it matters to 20% of people maybe who are going to be playing Halo, that it just should be cut.
Right.
That it doesn't matter if it arrives there. It's like, no, because what were we talking about on Defining Duke? Where we were mentioning how, like, even if something's not there, you still
Oh
want
yeah,
it
yeah.
there, right?
Want
I'm
it
sorry,
there.
even if it's not there for that you will be using, you still want it there. I think it's a
Yes.
situation here where Halo Infinite, it guaranteed now, will feel feature light at launch.
Yes.
I mean, that is just, when I say feature, I'm talking about the bullet points, right? We're not talking about how many missions are in your campaign. We're not talking about how many maps and modes are in multiplayer. It is launching feature light, though, compared to
Right.
previous Halo titles, right?
Right.
Like, because the bullet points were campaign, multiplayer, forge, co-op, firefight.
Right.
Three of those are gone.
Right.
And I'll pass it back to you.
And assassinations.
And assassination. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Actually, before I pass it to you, I just want to set it up. It mounts, right?
Yeah.
It's mounting. That's the point here, right? All of these things individually are small, but they build up. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. That's the thing, right? That's literally the crux of this. It's again, we're not fear mongering. We're just going by what the information that we have as presented, and we're lining everything up, and we're seeing what is there and what's not there.
Right.
Yeah, Forge is interesting because I want to double back on it because one would think that's the mode. Again, I don't know what the development cycle is. You could be very well right that Forge could be way longer. There's more things they got to iron out. I'm not a dev. I'm never going to disrespect a dev and act like I know how that works and how easy it is. It's not what this is.
Sure.
But it is interesting that one would think that mode would be prioritized to be at launch, even more than my beloved co-op, because that fosters engagement, which is what they want, which again leads me to believe that you can't tell me if in a perfect world, if they had all the resources, all hands on deck, and Forge, like if they could choose, and let's say they were both at the same development pace and they could choose, right? I would think, Forge would be up there at the same time or even higher because, again, with a free-to-play game, you want them staying and living in this world. You want them buying whatever it is with the pass and then the monetization and all that stuff. So it is interesting to me, that aspect, the fact of where it is on the timeline. And, I mean, I'm not going to just beat a dead horse. It just screams to me there are still a lot of issues trying to get this thing across the finish line, and decisions were made internally. This ain't gonna hit. This ain't gonna hit. Do we delay the game?
Yeah, they were talking about it, right? They were talking about it.
Exactly. So if they're talking about it, right, you just hope that every other component hits and lands smoothly. That's what we can hope at all. But there's definitely cause for concern, and we can't sugarcoat it as far as the development of this game.
Yes.
And the biggest thing, that's what I wanted to say. We came off a 1 year delay already, Maddie. So how was this game going to launch last year?
Oh, dude, it was going to be, we would have had two Cyberpunks in the same year. Like, that's what would have literally happened. And that is why I don't understand the pressure for this game specifically. You've said it, so I'm not taking credit for it. But, like, what is going on with the idea it has to launch? Just because we just saw it will be almost exactly a year ago when it launches. What happens when you got the higher ups and in this turn, crowd pressure really saying it's got to get out? It's time. It's like, is it? Is it time?
We just saw CD Projekt Red catch a body. There's a dead body in the street right now. Like, we see it, the body is still warm.
Yeah.
Like, why must this game come out? Like, it boggles me. That's the thing. It's just there's no, Halo. I've never seen anything like this. Is a first for me. I've been around gaming, but this is the first where I have seen gamers go against conventional tropes and things that we're so used to doing for everything else. And we have a live example of a failed game that was hyped to beyond end, crashed and burned, lost. We just did a Defining Ultimate on the CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Episode 29.
343, Microsoft, do you want that to be the fate of your game? Don't you want this thing to be, not saying it's definitely going to be that, but I'm just saying, like, don't you want this thing in the best possible position to succeed? That's all I'm saying.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just when
No,
they
go.
cut more features, and they know this,
Mhm.
it puts a microscope on everything else around it. So
Yes.
with that no forge, with that no co-op, no assassinations, no firefight, list goes on, the battle pass progression, all that stuff, everyone is putting the rest of that game under a microscope. That's just what happens when you learn you're losing more, you look in other places. It happens every single time. I have not been around as long as Cog, but I've been reviewing for a while, long enough to say I've seen some stuff. And
No
this is
doubt.
a endless cycle of like when developers talk and they go, we're doing this, this, and that. This won't be here this time around. People start to look for why when they get their hands on
Yeah.
it, get intimate with it. They start to learn like,
Mhm.
okay, well, what is here then? And
Yeah.
if you and then you get those, we're gonna get this with Halo. You get the I reviewed it as it is. I was not considering the outside forces. And you got people who are gonna be reasonable in my eyes and go like, well, this is gone. So what the fuck is this? Right.
Mhm.
Right. Or you took all of this out and it's still launched like this. I mean, these are the conversations that can easily happen with Halo Infinite. So why take that risk? I'm hoping that what they're saying is true, that they feel like
Yeah.
the parts of the game that they have and are launching will be strong.
Right.
And I think it'll be at least good. I
Right.
think Halo will be good, but
that's the problem,
yeah,
Maddie.
right. Halo
That's the
shouldn't be
problem.
just
How
good.
should be
Do,
good?
do you look
Halo
at
needs to.
Horizon? Do you look at Spider-Man? Do you look at God of War and go, should at least be good? Right? No, you expect greatness. You want greatness.
There we
That's what we
go,
want here,
brother.
right? I
There
mean,
we go.
and the other thing, my capping point here.
Let's go.
Xbox finally has a busy fall, Cog.
Yeah.
We've waited for this. We've waited for this, man. And once again, it just goes back to the same point, so I won't make it too long.
No.
What's with the rush then? If you've actually got stuff. Last year made sense for the rush. You had nothing except an EA Play integration into Game Pass, which is fire, by the way. That's not a console launch game like Demon Souls remake, right? That's not what was it? Sackboy. Like there was a number of games that came out, right?
Mhm.
Astrobot,
Astrobot.
that's not on that level, right? It's just not. It's not a game.
Correct.
It's an integration. And so I
Yes.
understand the pressure last year, but now the pressure's off. You got Forza, Game Pass Day One games like Back for Blood. You've got the Gunk. You've got Shredders on Game Pass in December, the same month that Halo comes out.
Preach.
You've got Age of Empires. I mean, there's more, right? There's more. And maybe you make a deal for, we talked about Battlefield. I know it's not easily strung together like this, but you make a deal for Battlefield. You plug that hole that may be missing with Halo. I see so many ways to maneuver this chessboard, and it feels like it can only go one way. And Cog, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think there is a marketing blitz coming. We're already seeing it start with Halo merch, but I think Bungie's going to get in on this somehow with the anniversary. And I think, you might see a crossover of some kind. I don't know what the nature of Destiny crossovers is, but I would be shocked if this is something that was not possible.
I've heard rumblings off the scene. I just chose not to talk about them for a long time. It's mostly because I don't want to get my hopes up because I'm such a fanboy of both of these games.
Yeah.
So when people tell me dream scenarios, I was like, look, don't mess with my heart, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to take me to a place. Mm-hmm. And I ignore it. I've ignored it. But all I will say, this is the strongest murmuring from a lot of people I trust and things I've been around. Okay. That I'm like, wow, okay, maybe, this looks. And when I saw, again, watching the Witch Queen reveal, this is Destiny's biggest expansion. This is also a culmination of what they're doing for their future. They're giving their roadmap, right? And the biggest concern for them was that they delayed their big expansion. Witch Queen, they'll normally fall in the fall, and now it's going to come out February 2nd. But in its place, they cut this thing called the Bungie 30th anniversary, and it's right there in December in that same pocket. So I just thought it was interesting. But this is just one of those situations where it's like, you just fear that the boardroom's not winning out, because at the end of the day, you said it so perfectly, Maddie. It's not good enough for Halo to be just good. It has to be great. This is your core. Like, treat this with the same amount of respect that all those franchises, whether it be Sony, Nintendo, we don't hear about. Like Nintendo, We're still waiting for Metroid Prime or what, we're still waiting for games that are like icon. Breath of the Wild 2 is a perfect example.
Yeah.
You think Nintendo's going to hit you, be like, you know what? We don't know if we're going to have Ganon in this one yet. We gonna wait. We gonna launch it with the Zelda and the thing. We're gonna talk about another story, but Ganon is coming in 3 months. Like, I know it's not apples to apples.
I know what you mean, though. It's
but you know what I'm saying.
IP significance.
You never hear Sony or Nintendo talking about how they're just gonna get this to you, and then we're gonna get you on the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's rare. The last time I've heard it was Last of Us Factions. Right. For now that one's valid, right? I know a lot of the Halo, the Xbox people, but they, because there's a lot of whataboutism if you even ask. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you be critical, here come the what about what they are doing. No, let's talk about what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you said it. I'm not even gonna blow it anymore. You said everything that needed to be said, and you just hope that that they prioritize the greatness of the Halo franchise more than anything. That means more. The last point, Forza is right there. Huge. November. You ain't got to rush. You ain't got to rush. You got mad stuff. Dude. You got all these deals, bro. Like, chill. You let it can come out when it come out.
This episode will be fascinating to listen to once this game comes out. I'm saying it right now.
Yes.
This will be, because if we're where I think our guts lie and it will up being correct, we will look like prophets.
Oh, facts.
But if it doesn't, I don't think we're gonna look bad, but it's just like, you'll see just how wound up people got.
But they were getting all emotional for no reason.
The thing with my gut here, why I'm trusting that this will not go smooth. Right? I'm not gonna say it's bad, but I don't think it's gonna go smooth, is because I don't remember I've been wrong about games like anyone before. I don't remember the last time, though, that I saw clear indicators that something was off. And it came out and I was like, whoa, okay, it's actually pretty good. Because here's the thing. Let's go back to like Cyberpunk. Slowly over time, we started to peel it back and they were like, no third-person cutscenes.
Yeah.
No, I think like aerial vehicles. Like they were slowly whittling things down. They started talking about dick physics.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I remember saying, even though I was hyped for the game, why are you spending time on this? I was like, clearly they must be in a comfortable spot. They weren't. I was like, why are you doing this? And now it makes a lot of sense why. And I don't know, not to really beat a dead horse here, but I just don't know why, when we've seen that same path over and over, suddenly, because we played a good slice of Halo Infinite, I think the multiplayer will be enjoyable, but we don't know how the progression will work. I just think it can twist on us real fast for a good way or a bad way.
Right.
And I just don't know why people are ignoring what I think are pretty blatant red flags. Like, you could argue the battle pass could go either way, but something like campaign progress, we should know by now. I'm sorry. I understand. They're right. It takes time to put that stuff together. It's been a story in game development for a very, very long time.
Yes.
It's not as simple as like what we do. Fire up the Elgato.
Record.
Boom. Good to go. Just not like that.
Correct.
So I understand, but we should have seen an update by now.
Yeah. I agree. And you said another thing you said too. And like, look, we're going by our gut feelings. We're going by, the information given. And we both admit here, look, we will both take our L. If this game launches smoothly, there's no issues. I am not afraid to say I'm wrong, and I know you're not afraid to say you're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely
so,
not.
And we want the game to be successful. So let's be clear. Come, say in the comments, hey, look, you guys, remember Divine Duke Ultimate, blah, blah, blah. Bring it. I'm for that. I'm for that smoke.
Yeah.
The thing is, just be cognizant that if our gut was right, this will damage Halo. And that's the sad part, because we don't want this thing. We want this thing to be successful, man. We don't want this thing to drop. We don't want Master Chief Collection situations and stuff like that. So
we don't.
We'll see.
And it shouldn't be in a position where it needs to crawl back. It should start off in a strong spot and grow from there, so it can be celebrated. But that's about it for this episode. We've covered everything we wanted to talk about. This is our time for a Halo gut check, and we're looking forward to seeing how the audience feels about Halo Infinite and its current status. I'm sure you all found this an enthralling listen, so thank you for sticking with us for this long. We appreciate you. And until episode 32 of Defining Duke Ultimate, we'll catch you guys there. And of course, with the main episode of Defining Duke. Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.